song created by our number one artist and friend here, Millennial Frog, with the hot beats. Anyways, this is No Party Preference. Today's episode is going to be about that goddamn Supreme Court. But before we get into that, if you want to hear our multitude of podcasts, you can go to GameRageMagazine.com where you can find the full menu of content. And if you want to see us on Instagram and TikTok, at GameRageMag, or at Game Rage Magazine on Instagram and TikTok, at GameRageMag on Twitter/X. And if you want to go follow Frank, you can follow the Anime Syndicate podcast at anime_syndicate_podcast on Instagram. And hear all your wonderful anime memes and musings and fun and controversial opinions about anime. Why'd you give me the angry look when I said that?
That was a confused look.
Why?
What do I do that's controversial?
I mean, we don't know. What would you do that's not controversial? Everything is controversial. Someone thinks it's controversial.
Some people think your face is controversial.
I mean, I could probably say that I think it is pretty controversial. But anyways, as you can hear, I'm here today. Obviously, I'm Josh. I'm here today with Frank, as you heard. And I'm here today with the lovely, amazing, controversial Katie.
I'm controversial. I'll take it.
See what I did there?
I don't give a fuck. I don't want to be mainstream.
Yep, that's true. You are not mainstream. So, anyways, I did want to talk about the Supreme Court today. It's kind of what the episode's theme is about. But I'm sure we'll go on tangents, talk about other shit too. But the thing that kind of brought this to the forefront, obviously the two recent major Supreme Court decisions. One...
There's three.
Oh, there's three? What's the third one?
Let's see yours two, okay. And then I'll tell you which one you're missing.
All right, that's a good idea. All right, so the first two are the confirming that it's illegal to be homeless in, ironically, the most expensive time to be housed in the history of the world. It's illegal for you to be homeless, and you can go to jail and face monumental fines, which would then make you lose your job and garnish your wages, and thus continue to be unable to afford to live in a home.
America.
But that's the one. And then the second one is the Trump. Well, I don't know if it's just the Trump thing, if it's Trump specifically, but it's the presidential immunity, I guess, is probably the main topic of it. And the Supreme Court essentially affirming that the president cannot be held liable for actions taken in his official capacity while as the president of the United States. Otherwise, it would undermine the ability of the president to act and lead the country, is what their thought process. So those are the two that I...
Well, there's also the bump stock ruling.
Well, yeah, that was. They also ruled that the ATF was overreaching, and that if Congress wanted to, that the ATF is an executive branch agency, meaning they are an enforcement agency, not a legislative agency. So they can't make a rule that bans anything. They can only enforce the law as it sits. So if they wanted to have that, if Congress wanted the law to exist, then they would have made the law exist, banning bump stocks. So. Anyway, all right, what's the third one?
The Chevron decision.
What's the Chevron decision?
Basically saying that judges now are the ones that get to decide instead of experts.
Oh, they get to decide.
Judges have final say instead of experts.
What's admissible in court as evidence, and expert opinion or expert witnesses essentially no longer matter.
I was about to say, couldn't they do that from the get-go too? Because at the end of the day, it's always what the judge says is, not what the expert says.
The Chevron Supreme Court. All right, let me just look it up and see what it exactly says. Let's see. The Chevron USA Inc. versus National Resource Defense Council. Wait a minute. That's not right. Oh, it took down Chevron. It took down the power of federal agencies to interpret law. Okay, so it says that they This was from June 28th when they did that. That was they cut back sharply the power of federal agencies to interpret the laws they administer and ruled that courts should rely on their own interpretation of ambiguous laws. The decision will likely have far-reaching effects across the country, from environmental regulation to healthcare costs. So they overruled. Jesus, see, this is why I hate the fucking Supreme Court, because they overruled their own decision from 1984, saying that, hey, it was called the Chevron Doctrine, that if Congress has not directly addressed the question at the center of a dispute, a court was required to uphold the agency's interpretation of the statute as long as it was reasonable. But in the ruling, Chief Justice John Roberts and the other justices rejected that doctrine, calling it fundamentally misguided.
Well, I mean, they fucking overturned Roe v. Wade. Like, don't even get me started on that. But that was a Supreme
we will
Court.
get started on that. I mean, not yet, though. I mean, we won't get there yet. We're not going to get there yet, but I mean, we're going to get there.
But I'm saying that was a Supreme Court decision that they overturned.
But that wasn't a law, right? It was like
No, that was a court. That wasn't like a law. That was just a court decision. I guess this was also a court decision as well. So it's just like, oh, yeah, sure. However, we'll make a decision, and then 40 years later or 50 years later, we'll just go ahead and be like, you know what? Never mind. We were just kidding. We don't want to do that anymore.
You know what the funny thing about that is? It's 40 or 50 years later, they're pushing us back 100 years.
Yeah. So basically what this is saying is that they've basically given the courts more authority to... they've taken away that authority, saying, oh, well, the court can't say if the law doesn't exist, which honestly, I mean, sure, I guess you're looking at the base interpretation of it, that sure, if a law doesn't exist and there's something that's ambiguous, that the court shouldn't be the one to decide it, that it has to come from the legislative branch. So if there's a law that exists that's too ambiguous and not specific enough to say, hey, like they're breaking this law, then if you can't prove it and not let the court interpret the law, the court is there to just decide it, right? And say, okay, yes, this is what it says here.
Right.
It says you can't do A, B, and C. Well, technically they did D, so technically you can't do it, but the court could say, hey, you know what? We see what the intent of A, B, and C was, and yeah, they basically meant D also, even though it didn't directly say that. So now the court can't, they've been able to do that, but now they can't. They has to say D is the thing you can't do. Otherwise, well, sorry, tough shit. You just got away with whatever it was you did. So I don't know. The Supreme Court is bullshit, first of all, because I don't think, and this is probably going to be, I think, a hot take that most people are going to not agree with, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that there should be lifetime appointments to any governmental branch at all. Nope. I think that is so ridiculous in the sense that someone could be on the Supreme Court for 40 years and essentially, as the times change, right, things change, and maybe we need to adjust things and you know, change the way we look at certain,
we need to be progressive
things, right? Sure, we need to go forward, not
and that's what I'm saying is
backwards.
40 years ago we made leaps and bounds with a lot of things, and then 40 years later some fucking assholes come in and push us back 100 years when it comes to rights. It's ridiculous. But I mean, I think it should be that way with Congress. I think it should be that way with Senate. I don't think there should be 2-term presidents. I think they all need like 1 6-year term. Because the first 4 years, all they're doing is fighting to try to get anything in law and trying to get reelected. They're not trying to do anything other in the first 4 years and say, look how awesome I am, reelect me.
Yeah.
They're not actually being a fucking president. So I don't think there should be, I think there should be term limits for everybody.
Yeah.
We have all these young, inspiring minds that come in and have all these great ideas and great ways to push us forward. But their voices are getting covered.
I also think there needs to be a legitimate age cap on who can be in any office, whether it's appointed via the Supreme Court is an appointed office or whether it's an elected office. I think that there should be, I think like once you hit 60, that's it. You're done. Because I don't think that people that are old enough to be my grandparents should be in charge of anything. Mm-hmm. They can barely be in charge of their own continents, let alone run a country or make important legal decisions as the quote unquote Supreme Court is intended to.
Your biggest enemy should be political convoy, not stairs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Stairs shouldn't be a fucking legitimate enemy for you if you're in any sort of elected or appointed political office. Mm-hmm. I just don't. I don't know why we're heading this way, but the Supreme Court is also not. It's like shit, man. It's like it's almost useless.
Well, I think it's interesting too. You and I have discussed this. It's not like we get to vote on the Supreme Court.
Right. That's why
we have no say, literally zero say over these fucking assholes that can make these wide sweeping decisions.
Yeah, and sure, if you want to talk about appointments that like a president gets to make, right? Okay, whatever. Yes, they appoint all their like people that they put as like the housing secretary and the secretary of defense and like all the secretary positions, right? I would make an argument that if you really truly wanted to be the master of your own destiny, we should be able to vote for those, right? In a perfect world of how our thing, the president shouldn't get to appoint anyone to anything.
But I agree with you. And just the way that the Supreme Court is different is they at least, those secretaries at least have to answer to the president.
Right.
Supreme Court has to answer to fucking no one.
Yeah, once you get elected, that's it. Or not elected. Once you get appointed,
you're
done. That's it.
And even if the president disagrees with you, it sucks to be you. Like, they have ultimate power of authority.
Yeah, and because
no one elects them. It's fucking terrifying.
And you can't be removed from unless you like do some horrific crime.
Unless you fall down the stairs.
No, they ain't falling down the stairs.
Not even.
That one lady, I think it was not Sotomayor. I don't know, there was one Supreme Court justice that was like, had like dementia and they were just like, they were like hiding it for a while. And then like their aides.
Like they're hiding with Biden.
Right. Yeah. Their aides were basically doing all their work for them. And then it's like,
I do remember that.
That's also not something kind of like what's happening with Biden, obviously, but that's not something that should be allowed. And that's what happens when you get a lifetime appointment because someone's going to want them to stay in power. Again, Trump got lucky, right? And that's another thing. Whoever gets elected to the Supreme Court, it shouldn't be just a luck of the draw. It shouldn't be, we have the same Supreme Court justices essentially for like 20 years. And then all of a sudden, 3 of them go down at once. And or 4 of them or whatever the number is. And one president gets to appoint a majority in the Supreme Court, right? And that's what the
thing is. He's out of office, but his reach is still fucking us all.
Right. And that's why there should be we should elect, and this is what I don't fucking understand. In the local realm, right? In our local, like in the county level and the state level, we vote on judges. We vote on these. They're elected officials, technically, because we vote for them to be in and hold their office of being a judge. We have to vote them in. We don't get to do. Why is it that we don't get to do any of that when it comes to the federal level, the Supreme Court? Those assholes should have to run for election just like every other politician that exists. And it shouldn't have to be, a president gets to decide and appoint them because sure, everybody says about there's checks and balances. Okay, yeah, the president can appoint somebody or what have you, but then the president has, or the candidate has to go through Congress to be elected, right? Or to be appointed. They have to go through all the, it's not a trial, but it's like the confirmation or whatever, where they have to be, they get questioned, they get all this stuff. But then if the Congress is a majority of whatever the president is, then guess what happens? They just get blown in through, they get run through. And yes, it's not impossible for someone who's on the candidacy or the appointee of a Supreme Court justice. There have been some that have been denied that haven't gotten it, right? That they failed. So it's not like they just blanket do it for every single one. I can't say that, but the majority of them just get kind of slammed and just kind of rubber stamped. And then, this is it. As long as they put on a good performance this one day, then that's it. You get to go and pass. You get passed on to whatever. And then that's another thing. If you're getting elected or appointed to this position based on things you say in your congressional confirmation hearing, and then you go ahead and turn sideways and change your mind 5 or 10 years later, what the fuck is the deal with that? You got put in because of, you said, oh yeah, I would always uphold, let's say, like the right for women to have an abortion or whatever, right? I would always uphold that right and whatever. But then 10 years later, maybe you change your mind. Well, shit. Now things have changed. Now you fucked around. Now it's like you've been in there too long. And that's why, again, people who are even congressmen and women shouldn't be allowed to be in there basically for life as long as they keep running and winning and stacking the deck against their opponents and not allowing anybody to come in and take their seat. It's like a dynasty. It's royalty. The Supreme Court is essentially like
there is no power higher than them. Like it has nothing. The president isn't higher than. There is no power higher than the Supreme Court.
Yeah, they decide a lot. They decide every legal contest that's the highest place you can go to have a legal issue solved or determined is the Supreme Court. And for whatever reason, the Supreme Court gets to just do whatever it wants without impunity because what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Nothing. They're appointed for life. So anyways, so yeah, I do think that, again, it's not like they're doing immensely horrific bad things all the time. I mean, sure, I do think that the whole bump stock thing, yeah, that's like a legitimate issue, and
you'll have to forgive me. Can you guys explain that one?
So basically, all right. So it is very confusing because there's a lot of weird propaganda about what a bump stock is. So a bump stock is essentially a device that is the stock of a rifle, and the stock is the portion that is the, I guess it's the piece that goes against your shoulder and it connects to the pistol grip or the handguard, and then that connects to the actual rifle itself. Now, in an AR-15 style rifle, there is a little thing called a buffer tube that's inside of there, and that little buffer tube basically is what moves back and forth with not with gravity, but with the gases, the blowback gases that come in, and so what it does is it's a little piece that connects to the mechanism that makes the trigger fire. And so essentially you can take and hold down the trigger, and the momentum of the weapon, because you have this piece inside of there, it allows it to just continuously fire until the magazine's empty. When you hold down the trigger. So it's like, this is a very bullshit term,
People
but
call it full auto, but it's not.
It's like the most artificial, quote unquote, it's not full auto, but it's faster. And honestly, I do think it's slower than pulling the trigger individually. It's kind of like a gimmick full auto, but it's kind of bullshit. It doesn't really work right. And it's kind of stupid. So that's what.
So what was? So
essentially, the ATF, the ATF created this rule where the ATF had this rule that said, "Hey, we've banned bump stocks. They're now illegal. You can't own them." The ATF has decided this. And so they've been doing this for years. And so people have been challenging it, saying that's bullshit. You can't do that. And the ATF's been saying, well, this is in the interest of public safety, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fair enough. But it finally went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court decided that, rightfully so, I think, that the ATF is an entity of the executive branch, which, you know, we have the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branches, right? Our three branches of government. And the legislative branch is to create the law. The judicial branch is to essentially interpret the law. And the executive branch is to enforce the law, right? That's the job, the basic job of the three branches of government. And so the Supreme Court ruled that the ATF, being part of the executive branch, is part of the enforcement entity of this. So they cannot legislate and create law. They can only enforce the law as it stands. And the current law that exists does not, like, bump stocks are not illegal. They are perfectly legal to buy, sell, possess, use. Nothing bans them in current federal law. So the ATF, which is a federal law enforcement agency, has been enforcing this ruling that they made up and just saying, well, we decided we don't like bump stocks anymore, so we're just going to say you can't have them.
Okay.
So the Supreme Court said, hey, you can't do that. You're not a legislative body. You cannot create or make laws. You can only enforce them as they stand. So if you want this to be a law, then you would have to go to Congress and get Congress to write and go through its process, its legislative process of the old Schoolhouse Rock, how a bill gets passed or whatever. You have to go through that whole process to get a bill codified into law, and then ATF, yes, you could enforce a ban on bump stocks if that were the case, but you can't just make shit up and decide you're going to say, oh, this is illegal today,
right?
Because that's not your role,
right? And
so everybody's all up in arms. All of the anti-gun people are all like, just this is going to be the end of the world. We're all going to die from all these fully automatic, weapons that are going to be out there. It's funny because Biden actually said in a thing that the bump stocks increase the caliber of the weapon, and which is not true at all because he just doesn't know how guns work, and he's 85 fucking years old. But either way, that's the ruling that they did, and that's an example of a ruling that, like, hey, that's kind of where the Supreme Court, as it's written and as it stands, that should be their job to do that, to interpret things and to say, well, wait a minute, no. You can't actually do this because this isn't your role. Whereas, yes, with the Roe v. Wade decision, and this is where a lot of people, I'm not saying you, but I'm just saying a lot of people are they get confused because they only know the one part of the issue. They're just thinking, oh, they just banned the right of abortion.
No, they didn't.
Correct. They didn't. All they did with that decision was saying, well, it's not a federal government issue to resolve. It is enumerated in the Constitution. This is something that the states should decide. That's all they did. So they just said the states can decide it, which, yes, that was their way of saying.
I could be wrong about this, but Ruth Bader Ginsburg was trying to push it to become an amendment.
Yeah.
Well, of course she was, because she's a fucking goddess.
Biden was the one that filibustered it.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
I could be wrong about Biden, but I know it was some politician that filibustered it and stopped it from becoming bigger than what it was.
Yeah, and sure, I am always in favor of more freedom than less freedom. And as we saw in the debate, both of these idiots think that abortion fucking is two different things.
I don't care who you are. What you can do on a golf course matters.
Jesus Christ.
That depends if you can. Listen, if we go back in history and look at, essentially the greatest golfing president of all time, George W. Bush, he started 2 wars. Fucking, economy was great. And he was, we will stop all sorts of terror. Now watch this drive. Fucking hilarious. But back to the point, them saying, hey, this belongs in the state's hands
is bullshit.
I honestly think that.
Watch what you say.
I'm not going to say, no, hold on. I'm not going to say, listen, I don't like the government getting involved in anything. And yes, we're fortunate here that this is one thing that being in California is, we know that's never going to be taken away.
We don't know that.
Right? Well, it's likely never going to be taken away in California. Yes, it should be access to, and this is another thing that's fucked, access to housing, healthcare.
You've gone through so many topics and literally not let me say anything about any of them.
Sorry, go ahead.
This is the Josh Show. We're gonna sit here.
This is the Josh Show. Shut your fucking face and just listen.
Pretty much. Bump stocks.
Okay.
I am anti-gun. I am. In a sense that I think there needs to be a psychotic amount more of regulations on them. There are more regulations on a woman's body than there are firearms. And that's shit not cool.
Can I say something?
No.
Oh, could I just add just to what you're
Yes.
saying? I think there should be as few restrictions on the regulation of women's reproductive organs as there should be on firearms. No. I think those should be equal.
So
0.
If you would let me finish my point, I unfortunately agree with you. So I believe in gun regulation. I will die on that hill probably by being shot because it's fucking America.
Probably.
But I completely believe in gun regulation. But I do think, unfortunately, that they made the right choice, that they don't have the right to make that law unless they do it the correct way. Now, I know Roe v. Wade wasn't going to be a topic that we were going to discuss. So if you'd like me to go on a tangent about Roe v. Wade, we absolutely can. But we might be here for the next hour.
Well, I'll just cut you off. But yeah, go ahead.
No, it's fine. It's complete and utter bullshit that there are regulations on anybody's body. Okay? Anybody's body. Name one regulation there is against a man's body. From the government level.
Hold on.
I could say something very dickish right now.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's hear it.
No, I'm not. It's okay for your wife to hate you. It's not okay for her to hate me.
Well, text it to me and I'll tell her.
No.
Boom, boom. There's none.
I mean, now, God damn, I can't say it.
Okay, pause.
Yeah. Oh, you want me to pause it? All right. Jesus Christ.
The dogs are going crazy.
Okay, all right, we're back after the dogs lost their mind and needed to be let outside to go pee.
It's like I said, name one.
Okay, I'm going to get heat for this. However, in the interest of fairness and doing what's best for business, I have to say, isn't selective service a regulation of what men can and can't do with their bodies? If the government so decides that we need to go to war and they tell you like, hey, guess what, buddy? You don't have a choice. You got to come in here and go to this boot camp and then go do what they fucking tell you. And that's it.
100% it is.
Okay.
Okay. Does that have to do with a medical decision?
Oh, shit. Cat. Hold on. Okay. All right. Okay. It's still going. All right. Never mind. Okay. Go ahead. Does that have to do with a what?
Is that a medical decision?
I mean, it could be. What if you are, there was a lot of people that like lied on the draft that shouldn't have been there, but then did and then got killed. So
Are there not debates to add women to the draft?
did they already do that?
Not yet.
Not yet. I mean, I guess there are, but that hasn't happened yet. So
The reason it's not happening is because we still have that rule that they can't be infantrymen.
Okay, so then women can't be drafted.
Okay. And there's something else.
Doesn't affect them. I'm just saying that may regulates what a man can do.
For an example.
Yeah, that's just the example.
Is there anything else?
That I can think of off the top of my head? No, I don't.
We
think
have
so.
lower wages.
Lower wages. Okay,
Yeah, okay,
but that's
but-
not government mandated. Hold on
Yeah.
now. That's business being assholes. That's
And the
not.
government shouldn't step in and help that?
I don't think the government should do. I think the government should just not exist. That's what I think.
Okay.
But anyways,
Access to birth control?
is that what?
Nearly impossible for a lot of women.
I literally went to my doctor last week and he had a whole thing for free contraceptives for anyone though, not just women.
Yeah, that's your doctor's office.
I'm just saying it's available.
It's available, but it's very difficult. Try going to a Planned Parenthood. Tell me what happens.
Isn't that where you go to get free stuff?
Yeah, and you stand outside and you get screamed at if you can even get into a building. Okay.
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 I mean, that's not all the time, but okay. No, your point's valid. Yes, there are obstacles to getting that.
There are many obstacles. Women can't be infantrymen in the military. What if they want to be?
Okay.
I
don't think that's. I don't think
I
that's
knew of a girl who wanted to join the Navy. She got such a high score on her ASVAB that they wanted to they recruited the fuck out of her. Okay. She said the two things she wanted to do: be in a submarine,
Okay.
or play the tuba in the band.
And they gave her the tuba in the band.
They gave her nothing because she wasn't allowed to do either of those.
They don't. What do you mean they wouldn't let women be in the band?
No, as a tuba player.
That doesn't even make sense.
Welcome to America.
Well, that's also the backwards ass military,
But
though.
the infantry one does make sense in a certain sense with the Army and the Marine Corps. To become an infantryman, there are 3 physical requirements that are non-negotiable: your rucksack march, the weight you can carry, and I forgot what the third one was. And the Marine Corps doesn't give a variation. The Army did make variations between men and women. But so I don't know why the Army hasn't changed the whole infantry corps now that they have regulations for men and women.
Yeah.
But where the Marine Corps as far as I know, does not have a
Difference?
difference. So if you can't pass that ruck march carrying I think it's like 220 pounds of equipment, then you don't become a Marine.
What if there's a female that can?
Then they can. That's my point. As I'm saying is, they don't have a differentiation. They just have the thing saying pass it.
The interesting thing too, the reason that she wasn't allowed in a submarine. Can you tell me why?
I know what you're going to say.
This is specifically what she was told. Tell me what you think they told her.
Well, it's because when you have a bunch of fucking idiot men trapped in a submarine for 6 months and there's one lady, that's probably not going to... Something bad might happen.
They flat out told her they were afraid for her to get raped.
That's what I'm saying.
Not that she would get pregnant in a consensual relationship or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
They have such little control over men that they won't allow her to serve her country because she might get raped.
We're just saying something because to be considered for a nuclear sub, you have to score 98 on the ASVAB.
Just some examples. So it is complete and utter bullshit.
Oh, well, I'll tell you this. They did lift the ban on that. So now women
good.
can serve on submarines since 2010. Since 2010. So
good. This was in
14 years.
2007. So
Yeah, so she just missed it.
oh darn.
I know, listen, I know it's, yes, that is oppression. That is systematic oppression.
When was America founded?
1776.
2010 is when they were allowed to join.
Well-
you know that a woman. You told me to go on this rant, and I will go.
Good.
You know that a woman couldn't get her own credit card without her husband's permission until the 70s?
Well, but that's business being sexist, not the government has no control over who gets credit cards.
But the government wants to step in and decide what I can do with my fucking vagina?
I agree. They shouldn't. Fuck them. They don't have any business on what you do with your vagina
That's
or your
exactly what I'm
ovaries.
saying. They have no fucking right
Yeah.
to talk about a fucking body.
Yeah, I say fuck the federal government for saying that you can or can't do that, and then B, fuck the state governments for saying that you can't do that or you can do or whatever. Fuck them all. You shouldn't even
So
get
the
a
fact
say.
that there's some fucking crouchy ass, can I say the C word?
Oh yeah, you can say whatever
Some
you
fucking
want.
crouchy out cunts
Yeah.
that no one fucking decided they wanted to go in there can sit on their fucking pedestal and tell a woman that she can't have an abortion is the most disgusting, vile, putrid thing I've ever heard in my fucking life.
Yeah, it is, and I also think it's bullshit too because the majority of people who are against, I won't say all, but the majority of the people who are against,
Or what?
yeah, religious.
Religious.
Against
And what is
people-
America? What's in the first fucking amendment?
Oh yeah, of course, freedom of religion.
That was the argument when Proposition 8 was a big thing in California, and I marched the streets for hours over days.
Yeah.
And I got in arguments where people were trying to get physical with me, and every argument out of their fucking mouth had to do with their religious beliefs. And I looked at every single one of them. I said, what if my religion said gay marriage was the only way? And no one had a response because America supposedly is a fucking freedom of religion, which is complete bullshit.
Yeah.
Because there are so many people in fucking power that want to say we're a Christian nation. Look at the Satanic Temple. You know what they do? They literally just fight all of the like matriarch or monarchy that people are putting over Christian values in America. Because the freaking First Amendment says religion should have nothing to do with it. It's complete and utter bullshit.
Yeah, well, it's also hypocritical to have a government that talks about anything to do with any sort of religion, but yet our First Amendment to our Constitution is the freedom of religion. What if your religion doesn't believe in God, and
Thank
yet you
you.
have in God we trust on our money, in God, God bless America. Everybody says God bless the United States and God bless.
Name
Or
one
whatever, right?
freaking president in our history that wasn't a quote unquote Christian or Catholic.
Oh, I don't know. There probably isn't.
There were rumors for Madison, but we don't want to talk about Madison.
Rumored. Again, over 250 years old almost at this point, 260 years old.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's like going to Saudi Arabia and saying, how many other guys are Muslims?
Yeah,
It's to be expected when the country is majority Christian, but the times are changing where that's dropping dramatically.
but in those countries, in certain of those countries, they do not have freedom of religion.
They know that.
So here we do. So that's the difference. Is we
And that's
shouldn't.
the whole freedom, don't tread on me bullshit. You're getting treaded on left and right, motherfuckers. Like, come on.
There was a
And don't get
meme.
me wrong, my best friend is a Christian. I have psychotic religion trauma. I genuinely, wholeheartedly believe that every religion is a cult. No one will ever convince me otherwise. We can do a whole nother thing on that if we need to. You have the right to do whatever the fuck you want, but it has nothing to do with the right when I get to do whatever the fuck I want. You can believe what you want. I can believe what I want, but no one in fucking power above me should have the right to say what I get to do. It's complete and utter bullshit. So yeah, I think that it was okay that they came in with Roe v. Wade and made this a universal thing. I think it was okay that they came in and made it a universal thing for gay marriage. And I can almost guarantee you, now that Roe v. Wade has been overturned and put it, quote unquote, back to the states, they're going to go after gay rights next.
Well, actually, I think the one they went after next was Brown versus education.
Oh, like separating the races in the schools again? Is
Oh,
that
no. What is
after?
it? They already have the 10 Commandments in one school district or one state.
Oh, yeah. What was that, in Mississippi
and then
or Georgia?
Louisiana, I think it was.
One of those fucking
And then another
states.
one, they have to teach the Bible as fact during history. And when asked, it's because America was founded on Christianity was the reason that they said they were fighting for that.
Yeah, but it was founded on a different type of Christianity. What's it called? The ones that the Pilgrims did? Not the Pilgrims, that's what, Puritans.
Protestants?
Yeah,
Puritans.
Puritan.
Oh, yeah.
That was the Christianity that was founded in Corona, the United States.
It's just ridiculous. So sorry. I mean, I can go on for another 2 or 3 hours, but I just want to give you a snippet why I think Roe v. Wade is bullshit.
Yeah, and I will say this. When it comes to that, with the religious thing, just a cap note on it, all you assholes who love to quote the Constitution and fucking love to quote how God says this and that, it doesn't say a fucking thing about God in the Constitution of the United States of America. That word is not listed in there one time.
And that makes me wonder, if I don't believe in your God, does that mean I'm not American?
That's why it doesn't say that
Right.
in there, because you can have the freedom to believe whatever you want to believe in it. Again, I don't think we should legislate religious belief, which is what abortion, being anti-abortion or anti-gay marriage, that's essentially legislating your religious belief, because your
100% it is.
book says that we can't do it. Okay, well then let's just be Saudi Arabia and just fucking have
And
a
that's when they
religious
say, well, we're
police.
not taking it away. We're giving it back to the states when they know damn well how the states are run.
Yeah, well, I
and
think
it's complete bullshit that a woman or a person can be born on a plot of land and therefore their rights are now taken away. In America. It's gross. We're in the fucking laughing stock, dude.
Yeah, and to tie it back into the Supreme Court, I think that I think the Roe v. Wade thing was a cop-out. I think what they should have said is they should have said, hey, you know what? You need to bring us something that is real, not this bullshit argument that, oh, the states should have it, because every state's fucking different. Right? That's a access to abortion or whatever. Again, saying that you can't get an abortion is a religious belief. I don't know, and I'm sure they exist. There might be people who are non-religious who don't believe in abortion. Maybe that's a thing. I don't know. I haven't met anybody who's not religious that doesn't support or believe in abortion.
And I've met many people who are religious who do believe in abortion.
Right. So either way, it shouldn't be a legislated thing. It should be, hey, everyone should just be allowed to do this because it exists. There's a want or a need.
It's a medical term. It's a medical thing between a woman,
right,
or a person, I should really say, a birth-giving person and a doctor. That's the only two people that should ever have anything to do with it. Moving on, because I will go on for hours.
So,
are we talking about how the president is now king, or are we talking about the fact that you can't be homeless anymore?
Which one? So that's another thing that I'm confused about, is everybody saying that the president is the king, because yes, they did say that ruling is that, okay, the president can't be held liable for doing official acts as the president, even if he makes the wrong decision.
The official wording was limited. What's it called? Where you're limited immunity.
Yeah, I don't know if it's qualified.
No,
immunity.
that's for cops. Limited immunity.
Don't get me started on cops. Sorry.
Is for that.
See, we were going to go off on tangents because I would go off for days.
Well, this is still all related to the Supreme Court shit, because the whole Roe v. Wade thing was about, they ruled on that whole thing. So Okay, so this decision says essentially that so specifically regarding the grand jury indictment against Trump because of his conduct after the 2020 election. Okay, that was specifically what this case was looking at, which the whole thing regarding saying it was rigged or, the January 6th thing,
He was inciting
whatever
a
you
riot.
want to say. But it's the action performed on that. They're saying that the immunity of exercising the president's core constitutional powers is absolute. That he is entitled to presumptive immunity when it comes to any other official action that he takes as president, that any president takes, right?
Now pause.
Uh-huh.
What's official action?
Well, it's anything you do as within the office of being
Wrong.
the president, right?
Wrong.
Okay.
They decided to put whatever official action is to the lower courts to figure out. They never once decided to say what official action was. They put it back to the lower courts to figure out. You know why? Because they don't want to deal with the fucking backlash.
So
they made a ruling that was literally incomplete. And the only reason they made that ruling is to basically pardon Trump for inciting a riot. And for any future president now, you lower beings can figure it out. They never came out with a statement what official things are.
But it doesn't make any president be able to be king. You still can't make yourself president. Listen, you can do it. You can say, we're going to suspend elections. We're going to institute martial law. The president has always had that ability to do that, right? Now, if you do that, it may turn out like that Civil War movie and motherfuckers are going to come for you and you'll end up dead like Ron Swanson did at the end of that movie. That's probably what'll happen. Is you'll just get killed because people aren't going to like that. So you can do it. It's within your official action, but that doesn't stop motherfuckers from showing up to your house and killing you dead, right? If they don't agree, if enough people disagree that you get to do that, you should just do this. Okay, which is why no president has essentially, suspended all outside of, major world wars.
But now let's think about it. What if they did?
Well, right. That's where we would have a real
What
problem.
if they did? Because now the Supreme Court said that might be within their official rulings that he's allowed to do that.
If that happens, the U.S. isn't going to exist anymore.
Right.
That's where we're getting at is they're doing this to cover up for Trump because Trump's the one that stacked the Supreme Court. We all know that. They're all a bunch of Trump fuckers in there. Okay. So the reason they're doing this is to get him off. But what does this look like for our future? What if, God forbid, Trump becomes our president again? He could do whatever the fuck he wanted, and the Supreme Court can say, well, it's under his official business.
Well,
We
okay,
can't
so
go after him.
in regard to declaring martial law and doing these things, the president can do that under the guise of an official emergency or whatever the reason is that they can use, right? A legitimate, there's plenty of legitimate reasons why they could do this. Now, there are limits to once the action is done and the emergency or whatever it is reasonably over.
But are
then
there?
you have to, yeah, there are.
But will there be? Is what I'm trying to
that's the
say.
difference, is
Because
that-
they're taking away, they're basically saying under his official capacities to do whatever, that could be taken away.
Well, here's what
they're
it's all-
taking away
yeah.
the checks and balances. They're basically saying, you do you, boo. You're the president. Good luck. Don't fuck us too bad.
Well, here's what it's always come down to when it comes to that issue is I think at its basic core, it's always come down to whether if the president were to ever declare martial law, the president they can declare it, but they have no ability to enforce it without what? The backing of the military. So you would need to have not every single one, but you need to have a large majority of all the people of the generals and everybody in charge to agree with this guy that, oh yeah, we're going to agree with this and we're going to suspend the Constitution, do all this stuff, right? Now, the likelihood of that is probably low.
Well, not necessarily, because you're also focusing on one just thing, but let's take martial law. is technically with the military, and I'm not trying to disrespect the military, but technically with the military, are you not trained to listen without question to those above you? That's why they call Marine Jarhead, correct?
Well, in most cases,
They call jarheads for their haircuts.
sure. In most cases,
Okay, but let me make my point. Who is the commander in chief?
right, it's the president.
Okay. So do you think any wars would be coming on? Do you think every single person fighting in every single war wants to be doing it?
No,
No. Why are they doing it?
because they're told to.
So what do you think would happen?
Yeah, there's a difference.
All right.
Though. There's a difference between, hey, go kill.
Go kill Charlie in Vietnam.
Go kill a bunch of.
Go kill Krauts in Germany.
To, hey, go kill a bunch of your fellow Americans.
I don't see it.
That's
There's-
where the difference is.
Look at Russia.
We're not Russia.
Yeah, but that's the difference, though. We're not Russia.
But could we become, now that the president
now that
has
we're
basically
becoming
immunity?
more communist, yes.
That's what I'm saying, though, because the president is basically going to get, as of right now, unlimited immunity because it still hasn't been decided. They're basically saying, you do you. Like, you're not understanding. I'm saying the future for what this could be. What if in 50 years we get a Trump 2.0? What if we get a fucking Hitler?
Well,
And
listen,
I'm being genuinely serious. And
Right.
what happens in the
I will
future with
even-
this?
Yeah, listen, I'll say this. I don't agree with this decision. I think the president should be held liable if he fucks up. You should be held criminally liable for fucking shit up. If you fuck up the economy, jail. If you fuck up, get us into wars, jail. I don't give a fuck. We put you in that position because you wanted to be there. And if you fuck it up so bad that, guess what, bitch? You're going to jail. All right. I think that the president should absolutely be held liable. Now, what I'm saying is that there are too many variable factors for this one decision of the Supreme Court to say, oh, any president could just become king now. Right.
Okay.
And so I will say, because of those factors, because the president is just one dude, right? Just one guy. If Biden right now wanted to say, you know what? I know I'm not going to make this election. I need to declare martial law right now, and I need to suspend the elections, right? If he were to do that right now,
Isn't that within his official capacity to
of
declare?
course, it's within his official capacity to do, right? But then who's gonna enforce it? Who's gonna do it? Is the military gonna do it? Probably, maybe at the beginning for a few months, but then once they realize, again,
But you're not understanding the point, Joshua. The fact that could happen is what the problem is, and the fact that this is setting the precedent for future times.
all right, but here's the thing: the president always had presidential immunity. That was a thing that's existed
Not to
from
this
the dawn of
extreme.
time. All they did was affirm what has been the past practice of presidential immunity, right? That's all they did.
I think they basically just took every president and put a big fat pardon sticker on them and said, "Go."
Which works out great for the Clintons.
And for the Trumps and for the Bushes. I mean,
Okay.
for every fucking president.
Look at Nixon.
Exactly.
Nixon didn't even get brought up on charges, and when Agnew took over, or not, what's his name? When he bowed down and stepped down, when Nixon stepped down of office, he got an automatic pardon.
Well, what's his name? What was his name? The VP. Eisenhower? No.
No, it's an Eisenhower.
Nixon VP.
Because the original, because that was the funny thing, because that VP is the only person in the history of the United States to ever get to office without ever being elected.
Yeah, I think it was
Truman, not Truman. No.
okay, no, because Agnew was his vice president, but he
stepped
resigned
down.
with
Yeah.
him. And then Gerald Ford took over.
That's what it was. Yeah.
That's who.
So Nixon called him up and, hey, can you be my vice president until the next election? He goes, cool, I'll do it. He gets it, and then 2 months later, Watergate happens. He resigns. Ford becomes the president without ever being elected.
Yeah.
But basically what the president I'm saying is, you're right, Joshua. There's corruption.
Yeah.
There's massive corruption.
Absolutely everywhere.
Everywhere. Because the fact that he was even immune to that and didn't get any charges is bullshit. The fact that Trump's probably not going to face prison time is bullshit. The fact that, all of these things are bullshit.
The thing with Ford is that when he did that, he destroyed his reelection.
Well, I mean, I think they're all bullshit. But what I'm trying to basically put a stamp on is two major things. What does this look like for the future? And now we're basically saying we won't even try. Because at least there was always that threat dangling above you, possibly. Why do you think Nixon resigned? Because he was given the pardon. That's the only reason he resigned. Because he knew otherwise he'd be fucked. Okay? What if we take that away from you? You're getting ultimate power.
Well, I mean, Clinton resigned, but he didn't get pardoned.
From what?
Well, the whole scandal happened with him.
He didn't resign.
No, he didn't resign. He was
He was his turn. That was in his second term.
what's the fucking word? Why can't I think of it right now? My brain is so blocked.
Impeached?
He was impeached, yeah.
Yeah, impeached.
Because he lied under oath.
Yeah, getting impeached and removed from office are two different things. The act of impeachment happens when Congress investigates you for whatever impropriety.
But he
Yeah.
was out of office before they can investigate.
I think the conclusion was that technically what he did was not against the law. So at the time, so that was why they were just like, well, there's nothing we could do. Shit. So.
But those are the 2 points I'm making.
Right.
They did this to basically cover up Trump because they don't want to put him in office. They don't want to have him be, liable for what he did. And what kind of precedent is this setting for future generations and for future presidents?
Right. I agree. It's just setting up for I disagree with them on this completely. Fuck the Supreme Court for this decision. This was a horrible decision. This has essentially given presidents carte blanche to do whatever the fuck they want.
That's exactly my point. We're basically getting immunity.
Right. Yeah, you're getting mostly immunity for pretty much anything you could do within your official capacity. So even if
even then, they can't even tell you what the official capacity is. That's what's scary too.
Yeah,
they literally said, lower court, you figure it out, you peasants. Let us know what you decide.
Well, and then you'll come to us. It'll come back up to us to decide, well, is this one thing an official action? We can't agree on it. It'll get appealed all the way back up to the
But how
Supreme
many
Court.
things there's literally millions and millions and millions of things that could be.
Which is why it'll
If
never.
he takes a shit and smears it in someone's eyes, is that official capacity of the president or is that assault?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the kind of thing I'm saying. Is it's not just the things that are legally within his capacity, like martial law. It's things like inciting a riot. It's things like overstepping his and pressing the button. Like those are the things. Could he overstep over everybody or she? God, let there be a female president. Could they override everybody and press that button and set those bombs up? That was in my official capacity to do so.
Well,
I have the code. But
Yeah.
you're getting my point. I'm not getting into the technicalities. I'm getting to the broad general overview of
Right.
technically at this point when they say like they can't even just tell you what an official capacity is, there's millions of different scenarios it could be. And that's fucking terrifying. I can guarantee you for the next 20 years, someone's going to do something fucked up and it's going to go, well, this is within my official capacity.
Right. So
Is inciting a riot within your official capacity as a president?
apparently
Does that
it
mean
is.
the next president can come in and be like, we ride at dawn, motherfuckers? And, I mean.
Hey, if you're Theodore Roosevelt, yeah.
What about threatening the people with the military?
Yeah.
Biden's done it twice.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Get fucked.
So one of the military guys I follow on YouTube, he was talking about, he's like saying, no, because Biden was saying like, go ahead, keep your M16s. You can do anything against an F-16. And then it shows like a drawing, and they're all looking at the TV of Biden saying that, and then they all just look at the F-16 pilot like, uh-oh.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. You can threaten all you want, but that guy sitting in the seat has to fucking make the decision to do it. And if he decides not to, well, then it ain't going to happen. Just like the guy on the street facing people that look just like him, that speak the same language as him, maybe even from his hometown. Is he going to pull the trigger on people that he knows? I don't know.
Can we look at what happened on January 6th?
Well,
Were those not Americans going after another Americans and they weren't even in official government capacity?
Well,
so they weren't even.
yeah.
No, but I'm serious.
Well-
This is giving you an idea of saying, yes, people will turn on people like that easily. All of the Trumpers are usually pro blue live matter or whatever that bullshit
and what's
is.
funny is the only people that died that day
Were
was
cops.
one cop, and then the cops they were the ones who killed people. None of
But
those
they went
dickheads shot
after each
anybody.
other, and why did he do it? Because he heard the president say to do it, so they did it.
Sure.
So now imagine being in a military or being in a government controlled, you're told to follow this leader. You're going to do it. or you're not. And you're going to be a martyr like Aaron Bushnell, who's a fucking god in his own right. But look at the extremes he had to go to say, fuck this. And not one thing was said about him either, because he was a quote unquote outsider who didn't want to do what they were telling him to do. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, there are plenty of people that will do that. Plenty.
Maybe, but there's probably plenty of people who would do the opposite of that.
And then what happens?
Well, that's what Civil War happens.
And then Civil War. So
Right.
there again, it's a terrible fucking decision, and it's going to set a bad precedent.
Yes, of course. It's terrible. What was the other one?
Homelessness.
Homelessness. Oh, fuck, man. That's another fucking one. In a time when it is the most difficult to afford housing, whether you're renting, buying, whatever, there are so many fucking people that are living out of their cars, that are living in RVs or just living on the streets even. And for the Supreme Court to say, hey, you know what, states? Yeah, you can lock people up for this. It's definitely illegal to be homeless. Bitch, do you know how many homeless encampments exist within just Southern California alone?
Why?
Why? Because
We don't give a fuck.
nobody gives. Well,
We cause the problem and then turn around and go, fuck you for struggling.
and you know what the best part is? Gavin Newsom has spent billions of dollars on homelessness, right, over the last few years. And guess what? They did an audit. They figured out that they don't actually know where any of the money went.
Shocking.
None of it went to homeless people, though. That's for sure.
Shocking. This is what I think is interesting. Specifically, the Supreme Court determined that the, quote, cruel and unusual punishment, quote, clause of the 8th Amendment does not prohibit the city of Grants Pass from enforcing criminal punishments against people who are homeless for camping outside in the city.
That is cruel and unusual
we have
punishment.
Thank you. We have a homelessness problem. We do. We can spend hours debating on how to fix it.
Sure, yeah.
There's a million different ways, a million different right ways, a million different wrong ways. That's a whole nother spiel. What's absolute and utter bullshit. We're going to fine them. Do they have the money?
Obviously not if they're living on the
So we're
street.
going to steal money from people that have nothing because they have nothing. So instead of, being America and making America great again by, saving fucking people's lives, we're going to spit in their face. Fuck you. Spend the night in prison.
Honestly, I
And
hope.
any of those people that would have maybe gotten a job now with fucking criminal background, how are they supposed to get a job now?
Right, exactly. Now you can't get a job. And guess what it's going to do? All it's going to do is to force the people who are homeless to rise up and fight against their oppressors.
I hope they do.
Then they should. Mm-hmm. We should go protest fucking homeless laws.
I guess we both actually 100% agree on this. I don't
Yeah.
think we have really much else to say about it.
that's true. We actually agree on
Usually
this.
we have like
I can-
majority view.
Yeah, I can take the other side just to be the devil's advocate,
Yeah,
but there
there's
is no
this one. There's no devil's advocate
devil's
for this
advocate
one.
for this one. That's
There's
just
none.
fucking wrong.
Because usually you agree with me, but you do like to almost challenge me at
Right.
a point. So we can see both sides, because I've always
Yeah.
said you can't truly understand one side unless you hear the opposing
Right.
side.
Yeah.
My dad's opposing side, I was brought up to today, goes, well, what do you want those people sleeping on your front lawn?
Well, they're not doing it now.
Well,
so
and I said, of course I don't. But what would you like them to do? Well, I don't know. What do you think the answer is? And I'm like, I don't know, boomer. I don't fucking know. But I can guarantee you doing this isn't going to help a goddamn thing.
Yep.
It's not helping anything.
It's only going to make it worse. And again, it's governmental corruption by criminalizing people for not being able to afford things. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially, you've created debtor's prison now. Mm-hmm. Because you can't afford to live in a home. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Now you're going to go to jail, bitch.
Well, there already is debtor's prison. You can't pay a parking ticket. Have a night in jail. You can't do this.
Well,
spend a night
they
in jail.
impound your car, and then, eventually
you're
they find the
getting
shit
my
out of you.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they
You're
garnish
literally
your
setting
wages.
them back like
Yeah.
someone who is so low that they don't have a place to rest at night.
Mm-hmm.
And you're taking away any and all opportunities they have.
Yep. It's fucking terrible. Disgraceful. The Supreme Court, you should all be ashamed. Well, those of you that have voted in favor of this, you should all be ashamed. And all of you should be fucking taken out
I agree.
of office. Which is why, to end the episode, because I think that's all we have this year, 2024, I will be voting for my favorite candidate, the Gay Rage approved candidate, Ultra Guillotine.
Ultra Guillotine for the win.
Ultra Guillotine for all government offices. No more fucking cake. We're done with cake, you bastards. It's over. We're starting over. Start from scratch.
No one gets any fucking cake.
Ultra Guillotine. No lies, no corruption, only results. That's it. Anyways,
and in conclusion,
what?
And in conclusion, fuck the government and fuck the Supreme Court.
Fuck the government, all the branches, all the governmental branches. Fuck them all. Every single one of them.
Supreme Pizza, hold the court, please.
Supreme Court pizza, hold the corruption. Anyway, you got anything to say over there? No? All right. Well, that's the end of it. So thank you guys for listening. If you want to listen to our other podcasts, you can go to GameRageMagazine.com and hear our full assortment of podcasts to listen to. If you want to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine, Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag. If you want to follow if you're a fan of anime, you want to follow Frank for some non-controversial anime opinions, you can go to anime_syndicate_podcast at Instagram or on Instagram. TikTok coming soon. So anyways, all right. Well, thank you guys for listening and we will catch you on the next one.